everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a 2022 weeks flip because I realised I haven't actually filmed this and I do enjoy seeing flips of other people's planners, so hopefully you do too. This is just the regular sized weeks in yellow. I always go for regular rather than mega. I don't need that many notes pages, and because I love the yellow, as you can kind of see, I did just get the regular clear weeks cover on cover. I then always use a Hobonichi page marker as the closure for these covers. I've tried a few different methods and hacks to kind of close the weeks, but I do find this is by far the best way. So if you are struggling to kind of keep your weeks closed, or you know, trying all the different hacks out there, this one is probably the easiest one out of all of them. Hopefully this will kind of go together quite well, but if there are any edits, it's purely because I've flipped through and gone, yeah, I'm not going to show that on video, but hopefully it will be reasonably seamless. Obviously some of the bits I will have pulled out because some things move from planner to planner, so you know, things like bank cards or whatever I stored in here have obviously moved into wherever they are now, and things like the Cocoa Fusion tabs that I always stick. I don't tend to decorate my kind of covers in planners. I'm not big on decorating anyway, so it will kind of look quite plain in some places, but that's purely because I've moved things from planner to planner over the year. To kick off, I have my year at a glance page. This is just a kit from my shop, and I use this page pure and simple for period tracking. Really handy to have it at a glance. This layout is perfect for that, and can be really helpful. I therefore didn't use that, but I did just use the sticker just to, you know, match it all up. These are the Cocoa Fusion tabs that I just mentioned. I use them in all of my planners. They're really handy just for quick pages that I need to flick to. This, the other kind of year at a glance, I used for weight tracking. As you can see, kind of fell off a cliff around this time. Yeah, I'm back on it this year. It's not going so great, but yeah, I always tend to use this as some sort of kind of health tracking in some way, shape or form, whether it be weight, exercise, steps, etc. And then on to the monthly pages. So these kind of broadly stayed the same throughout the year in terms of how I use them around kind of plans and financial tracking and some habit trackers and kind of do lists. Some weeks and months were kind of more stickery than others. I then kind of halfway through the year really settled into the layout that I couldn't currently have in my weeks monthly. So if you've seen any of my recent videos, in terms of my weeks, this will look quite familiar. Yeah, it's pretty much this layout. It's kind of how I've been planning now for quite some time. Works for me. I have a little color coding system, just so I can see at a glance. You know, pink is plans, blue is kind of all day tasks, grey is kind of holidays and away, green is fitness, i.e. squash court bookings basically. And yeah, it keeps it nice and simple. Oh, and purple was kind of evening events. And yeah, I really like kind of how these turned out. This is when I got my sterling ink subscription, so you can see me starting to use those instead of the washi tape. And yeah, you know, it worked really well for me, hence why I've continued to use it this year. I tend to move into a new weeks at the end of the year. I like moving into a planner at the end. I don't like starting in November. This planner does start, let's see, yeah, 29th of November. I like to have years in a planner rather than kind of starting a little bit early, so there'll always be a few empty weeks. As you can see, some weeks didn't get used at all. Generally when I'm away or on holiday, I tend not to use the planner because there tends to be not too many to-dos beyond kind of packing and things like that. So you will see some weeks that are really heavy use and some not so much. That's generally the reason why. I do also find that if I have, you know, super busy time at work, I tend not to use the planner too much, again, because I don't have, you know, if I'm full on at work, I won't do a huge amount around kind of outside of work, so there'll be fewer YouTube videos going up or blog posts and few new releases for the shop, so I tend not to need to do a load of planning because I don't use this for work at all. So yeah, if I'm doing a lot in my work life, then this will suffer because I'm not doing as much outside of work. At the start of the year, I kind of had a rough layout. So as you can see, this kind of layout lasted for quite some time. I liked it. It was quite minimalist and nice, but then I kind of felt like I wasn't using the pages enough, if that makes sense. I wanted a bit more on there. I wanted the pages to look a bit more full. So then I started experimenting with adding a sticker of the day, for example, as a bit of super mild journaling. So, you know, just a bit of a highlight. So that's when I got an order of some description. That's when Better Call Saul was released, things like that, just as a little kind of thing to look back on. Also a great way to use up some of my stickers, because this was the year that I was in my Take a Note planner, and therefore I wasn't doing any kind of pretty sticker planning, whereas this year in the Cousin I'm using my stickers. Last year they were just kind of sat collecting dust and I didn't like that. I wanted to get some use out of them, so even just using a sticker a day, it helped me feel like I was getting some use out of them and that they weren't just lying there not doing anything. Around this time is when I started adding in some journaling, so kind of the next step up from putting a sticker a day. I started putting in smaller stickers and then writing a little bit about what I did that day, a few highlights, things like that. Also helped when kind of doing some journaling. You know, if I did journaling a month at a time, for example, or like scrapbooking, I could easily go back and go, okay, well that's what I did on that day, and then find images or ephemera that I'd collected accordingly. Onto the notes pages, and I'm not going to show the first chunk because that's my budget planning. So I always use my weeks to track my spending, track my budget, do all of that, because the pages are perfectly set up for that. If you are interested in how I do it, there is an old blog post that kind of takes you through the process, so I will link that in the description just in case you're interested. But I will show you obviously the rest of the notes pages, which are literally kind of scrappy pages of like to-do lists or packing lists and things like that. That's kind of how I tend to use the bulk of my notes pages. I did experiment at the start of the year with having kind of a set kind of order tracker, but I just found that I didn't refer back to it. I prefer having it actually on the weekly spread. So yeah, here if there was a circle rather than a dot, that's something that I was waiting for, and then I could just tick it off there, and then I would just, you know, migrate across the next week if it hadn't arrived yet. I much prefer that way of doing it rather than having it as a separate page. Just some kind of general to-do lists. So I like to have an inbox to-do list, so you know, longer term to-dos, things that I'm not necessarily going to do this week. Again, I don't want to have, you know, I don't like having separate spreads. However, for something that's going to last several weeks, I don't want to migrate the same thing over week after week, because then I'll just feel really lazy because I haven't done it. And again, if I'm not, you know, planning on doing it immediately, I don't need that kind of negativity. So having a separate inbox that I can just refer to, and, you know, maybe if I've got some spare time, or, you know, got a week of, you know, all my YouTube's done for the week and things like that, I've got a little spare time to look through the inbox and go, okay, is there anything I can kind of knock off, like a charity shop trip, or, you know, clearing out my stationery hoard and things like that. Then a lot of these pages are, like I said, packing lists, which if you saw my week setup for this year, you'll see that I've changed how I do a packing list, because it was just kind of, it was fine, but it was getting a bit wasteful just writing out the same thing over and over again. So I've got a new method in this year's weeks. I will leave the setup video probably in the comments for this year's weeks in case you want to see kind of how things have differed year on year. This is just a to buy list, again, something that I'll have separate because these might not be things I immediately need. They're just things that I want to pick up, you know, as and when, or, you know, for a party in a couple of months time, things like that. So I will have a separate one and just, you know, tab it off so I can easily get to it. Get another packing list. You can kind of get a theme. A shopping list for a little kind of get together we had on Christmas Eve. A list for everything I wanted to do over the Christmas break, because I had kind of a week or so off, so I wanted to make the most of it with the shop. List of printable ideas, and I literally had one page left. As you probably noticed, I for some reason tend to only write on the right hand side of the page. I don't know how or why I got into the habit of doing it, but I just do. It then kind of allows me to use that page for kind of the main intent, and then sometimes I might want to kind of write scrappy notes to do with kind of what's on here. 9 times out of 10, as you can see, I don't. It's a weird thing that I do. couldn't tell you why, but I just kind of keep to it. And it's not like I'm running out of pages, so it's not like I have to be, you know, careful about the pages that I use. And that is it. Got my so I don't use this as a pencil board per se. I don't find I need it, and also I like being able to see the lines, particularly on this side where there are no lines. I like to be able to see through when I'm writing, so I do tend not to use a pencil board. What I do use it for generally is for this week, and also for, you know, if the ink's not quite dry, I just kind of drop that in there to stop anything from smudging. And yeah, that is my 2022 weeks. I only talked briefly about tabs. I always tab up my planners. I love tabs. If you've been watching my videos, you'll see. These are just monthly tabs from the shop, and then these are, I think they're post-it note tabs. I'll drop a link, and then I always just use stickers rather than writing to show what the sections are, because I don't like my writing on tabs. I just find they look really messy, so I'll either use icon stickers or I'll actually make my own stickers and put them on there instead. I hope you enjoyed this little flip through. If you do have any questions about how I use my planner, please drop them in the comments, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Thanks, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye.